You spent 30 years building a life. Then one phone call quietly took most of it away from you. That's the part nobody warns you about. By the time you're 50, the ground beneath you can vanish in a single afternoon. Today you'll hear the story of one quiet man who lived this exact moment. What he rebuilt from the wreckage changed him completely. Wade Calloway, age 52, worked as a regional sales manager in Knoxville, Tennessee. He had given that company 26 years of his life. His mornings used to feel certain. Coffee at 6, blue tie by 7, briefcase by the door, the same drive down Kingston Pike. He believed loyalty would protect him. He believed long hours would shield his future. He believed effort always paid off in the end. Then, on a Tuesday in March, his manager called him into a small gray office. The words were short, rehearsed badly. The company was restructuring. His position was being eliminated. He would have 2 weeks of severance and a cardboard box for his desk. Wade walked to his car in silence. He sat behind the wheel for almost an hour. The world outside kept moving without him. He drove home that afternoon along the same road he had taken for decades, but every mile felt longer than the one before it. His wife, Margot, met him at the door. She saw his face before he said a word. She quietly took the box from his hands. That night they sat at the kitchen table without speaking. The clock above the stove ticked louder than it ever had before. Here's what Wade didn't understand yet. The life he had built wasn't gone. Only the version of himself attached to it was. The next morning, he stayed in bed until 10. The mortgage was due in 11 days. The savings account held less than he wanted to admit. He started applying everywhere. He sent out 50 resumes in the first week. He received 3 polite rejections and a wall of silence. He sat in their parked sedan outside the grocery store one afternoon. He couldn't remember why he had driven there. He just sat and stared. Picture this. A man who once managed 40 employees, now circling the parking lot of a hardware store, afraid to walk inside and ask for work. Weeks turned into 2 months. The rejections kept coming. Some were automated. Some were worse, the ones that said he was overqualified. That word, overqualified, stuck to him like a stain. It meant he was too old, too expensive, and too late. Wade started waking up at 4 in the morning, not to be productive, just because sleep refused to stay with him anymore. He would sit on the back porch in the dark. He'd watch the streetlight flicker across the empty driveway. He felt invisible. One Saturday, Margot found him in the garage. He was running his hand along an old wooden chair his grandfather had built decades ago. She asked him a quiet question. She asked when he had last done something with his hands that brought him real peace. Wade couldn't remember. He had spent 30 years selling things. He had forgotten what it felt like to actually make something. That night, he pulled an old toolbox out from the back of the garage. The hinges were stiff. The handle still carried his grandfather's grip marks. He didn't sleep much that night, but for the first time in 2 months, his chest felt lighter than his shoulders. If Wade's story sounds even a little like yours, take a quiet breath right now. Some of you are sitting in this exact silence today. Comment one word below, just the word "here." Let someone else know they're not the only one standing at this kind of crossroads. Now back to Wade, because what happened next is the part most people never reach. The following Monday, Wade walked into a small wood shop on the edge of town. The sign above the door read, "Holloway & Sons since 1962. Inside the shop sat an older man named Otis Holloway, 70 years old, hands like worn leather, sawdust clinging to his work apron. Wade asked if Otis needed help. He admitted he had no formal experience. He said he was willing to sweep floors if that's what it took. Otis looked at him for a long moment. Then he asked Wade only one question. He asked what Wade had lost before walking through that door. Wade told him everything. The job, the pride, the version of himself that no longer existed. He spoke for nearly 20 minutes. Otis listened without interrupting. When Wade finished, Otis pointed to a broken rocking chair in the corner. He told him to start there. For the first 2 weeks, Wade arrived at 7 and left at 6. He sanded, he measured, he made mistakes that cost him hours. His back ached in places he had forgotten existed. His hands developed blisters, and then calluses. He came home smelling like cedar and oil. Margot noticed something different in him by the end of the first month. He was tired, but he wasn't hollow anymore. One evening, sitting on the porch, Otis finally spoke the words Wade needed most. He set down his coffee and looked Wade in the eye. He said this: "A man doesn't start over by chasing what he lost. He starts over by building something his old life never let him build." Wade didn't respond right away. He just let the sentence settle into him. He would carry that line with him for the rest of his life. Otis then taught Wade 3 quiet rules, not business rules, not motivational rules, just rules for rebuilding when life takes everything. Rule 1. Start with your hands before you trust your head again. Doing real work in the body restores belief in the mind. Rule 2. Choose mastery over speed. The world will pressure you to rush, but what's built slowly is what actually holds. Rule 3. Serve before you sell. Every piece of furniture you touch, treat it like it belongs to someone you love. Wade wrote those 3 rules on the inside cover of an old notebook. He read them every morning before walking into the shop. The first month tested him. He ruined the walnut tabletop and had to start over. He cut himself twice and learned the value of patience. But by the end of month 2, something shifted. He restored an antique dresser for a woman who cried when she saw it finished. She told him her late mother had owned it for 40 years. She hugged Wade in the middle of the shop. Otis watched silently from the back. That night, Wade understood what Otis had meant about serving first. He hadn't restored a dresser. He had restored a piece of someone's life. By month 4, customers were coming in asking specifically for the new guy. Wade still flinched when he heard it. He didn't feel new. But the work didn't lie. His pieces were honest. His repairs held. His finishes were clean. Word slowly traveled through the small town. 6 months in, Otis offered him a partnership. Not money up front, just shared work, shared profits, and a name above the door someday. Wade went home that night and told Margot. She didn't say anything. She just held his hand longer than usual at the dinner table. A year passed. Wade turned 53 in the back of the workshop, surrounded by sawdust and the quiet hum of an old radio. He had saved enough to cover the mortgage 3 months ahead. He had paid off one of their 2 cars. He had stopped waking up at 4. His daughter, Adeline, drove down from Nashville to see the workshop. She walked in and didn't recognize the man working at the lathe. He looked taller somehow, calmer, lighter in the shoulders. She told him later that night that he looked like himself again, maybe for the first time. 2 years after the layoff, Otis stepped back from daily work. Wade took over most of the shop. The sign above the door was repainted. It now read Holloway and Callaway, Restorations and Heirlooms. Wade stood in the parking lot the day it went up. He cried quietly into his sleeve. He thought about the man who had sat in that grocery store parking lot 2 years earlier. That man had believed his life was over. That man had been wrong. His old life was over, but a truer life had been waiting on the other side of his lowest moment. Here is what Wade learned that no severance package could teach him. Starting over isn't about replacing what you lost. It's about discovering the version of yourself your old life never had room for. Loss makes space. Space invites becoming. Most people fear starting over because they think it means going backward. But starting over isn't going back. It's going deeper. You don't lose 30 years when life forces a reset. You carry them with you. They become the foundation, not the ruin. Wade often tells younger men who walk into his shop the same 3 things. He says them slowly, the way Otis once said them to him. He says, your hands remember things your fear has forgotten. He says mastery is louder than panic. He says serve first, always. So here is your part of this story, the part that belongs only to you, the part Wade would want you to sit with tonight. Maybe you've lost a job. Maybe you've lost a marriage. Maybe you've lost a version of yourself you can't get back. That's real. But hear this clearly. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too far gone to begin something honest tonight. Tonight, before you sleep, write down one thing your old life never had room for. One skill, one craft, one quiet dream. Tomorrow morning, take one small step toward it. Not a giant leap, not a perfect plan, just one small, honest step in that direction. Do that for 7 days, just 7, and watch what begins to wake up inside you. Watch what your hands remember when you let them try. If this story moves something in you, leave a comment below. Tell us what you're starting over from. Tell us what you're building next. Your words may be the exact ones a stranger needs to read tonight. That's how this small community of ours quietly helps each other heal. And if you believe stories like Wade's can change lives, subscribe to Purpose Tales. Stay with us. We have many more parables to share. Because every ending you've feared is hiding a beginning you haven't met yet, and every man who rebuilds stronger than before. It's never too late to start over. It's only too late when you stop believing you can.